If I were to tell all of you to look at me and I give you instructions, and for example, I touch a specific part of my body, and I tell you touch that part, but the moment I say, for example, I touch my left shoulder, right, but I'm telling you touch your right shoulder, you know what is going to happen? You would not follow what I'm saying, you would follow what I'm doing. That is so powerful, eh? So powerful. So you do not follow what is said, but what is done. You follow action, and that's why they say actions are louder than actions speak louder than words, right? Very, very important. I always like to say that your actions are so loud that I can't even hear what you say. Right? So here Tulsidas says, with the dust of the lotus-like feet of the Guru, I cleanse the mirror of my mind, the mirror of your mind. Everything that you are taking in with your eyes, everything that you are seeing, right? Your mind, your subconscious mind rather, becomes the mirror, because that is what brings things into manifestation. So the subconscious mind becoming like the mirror there is going to reflect anything that you keep taking in your mind over and over and over and over. That is what I always try to explain, right? As a matter of fact, I always try to explain that. If you take in something over and over and over, eventually it is going to reflect outside. And that's why Tulsidas is saying, I am taking now the knowledge that my Guru has given to me. I am taking that enlightenment and I'm going to allow that to reflect out as I glorify that name of Bhagwan, Shri Shri Hanuman Chalisa. Whenever I sit in satsang, when I sit in devotion, when I sit to speak, wherever it may be, I always ask God to take control. So it is not me speaking, but it is Bhagwan speaking through me. You know why? Because He knows everything. Because He is aware of everything. What I know is like a little speck of dust, a grain of sand. You think about that in this entire universe, this entire multiverse. So I allow Bhagwan to flow and channel that energy because He knows everything. He's aware of everything. You want to live your life like that. Surrender to God. Give control to Bhagwan. Let Him take control of this body. Let Him take control of this body and let Him do this action. If you read Bhagavad Gita or any one of the scriptures, you always hear these concepts. Allow God to take control. Let Him be the one that is doing everything. And now, when you hear that, you might wonder, but how does that happen? It's very simple. Again, it deals with what you are putting into your mind, right? So, I would have spoken about the mind many times, and this is something that I spend a lot of time studying because this is very, very powerful. If you can understand how the mind works and how to use it properly, you can take yourself to any level, physically, mentally, spiritually, and all of these things, right? So as He cleanses the mind, with that vibration from the lotus-like feet of the Guru. We talk about the lotus. Why? Why is the feet of the Guru represented by a lotus? Why didn't they say hibiscus? Right? Or exora, or whatever other kind they have. Right? Why? That lotus-like feet. Because that lotus represents something. And I want all of you to take this very, very important. That lotus flower grows in a pond. It doesn't grow in beautiful, beautiful water, beautiful lake or anything of the sort. It grows in a pond where there is dirty waters, where there is murky waters. Yet that lotus flower, it rises up out of that ocean, sorry, not ocean, pond. It rises up out of that pond, and as it rises up there, what happens? It comes to the top, it peeks out, and then it blossoms, and it blooms into a beautiful flower that all of us want, that you want to look at because it's so beautiful. It's delicate. It is divine. That lotus flower teaches us in life, do not allow your situation or your circumstances to determine who you become. Shape yourself. Program yourself. Even though the lotus flower is growing in that dirty water, it rises. It rises above all the negativity. Like Vibhishan in Lanka. Perfect example. rises above all of the negativity and comes out like that lotus flower. So the feet of the Guru being represented by that lotus flower is because that Guru, when he passes that knowledge on to you, right? When you surrender to the feet of the Guru and he passes that knowledge on to you, it is going to help you to shape yourself the right way. That is the purpose of Guru. When the Guru is there also, you are supposed to take instruction, but again, the Guru has to know what he is giving as well also. That's important, right? But instruction is supposed to be taken, right? Now, sometimes people take that as, okay, so I shouldn't ask anything, just take instructions alone. No. You ask, because when you ask, you get clarity, you get clarification. That's how you learn. That is how your mind is going to open up to new things. Right? Below Siyapati Ramachandra ki Jai. So, Sri Guru Charana Saroja Raja Nijamana Mukura Sudhare Baranau Raghubara Vimalaya Shah Jodaya Kupala Chadi. So I think by now it is clear that you can see how powerful these verses are. There's just one line, we took one line, and that took us through so many different things to understand so many different things. Right? Says here now, Baranau Raghubar. Baranau means I invoke. Raghubar. This by itself here is an entire katha. You say Raghubar or Raghuvar, it means one who comes from the solar dynasty or the solar lineage, the Raghukul race, which was the lineage race that Prabhu Shri Ram is from. Right? Raja Dasrath and all of them. That's the lineage that they are from. So is Tulsidas referring to Prabhu Shri Ram here? It begs a question, right? Is he referring to Prabhu Shri Ram? In one context, yes. And in another context, he's referring to Hanumanji, and I'll tell you how. Hanumanji is also born from that same dynasty that Prabhu Shri Ram comes from. They were born out of the same kid. I'm not sure how many of you are aware of that. They were born out of the same kid that came out of the fire. Raja Dasharatha, he did Putra Kameshti Yagya to get sons, right, for the benefit of sons. When he gave it, he distributed amongst his wives there, his consorts, the queens, right? To partake of this, to give birth to children. There are different versions of Ramayana, right? Many different versions that exist. All which tells different parts of the tale and all of those things, right? In one place, right? It is said, and this is the one that I always say because to me, I resonate with that one, that Kak Busundi, right? Kak means a crow, right? He would have come and he would have taken a little bit of the kheer while flying. He would have snatched a little bit of the kheer out of the bowl of Kausalya Devi. And he would have gone to where Anjani Devi was. Anjani Devi is the mother of Hanumanji. She was an Apsara, a celestial dancer, and eventually what happens, a celestial being in the heavenly regions, and eventually she fell from there because of certain things that transpired. Falling upon the face of the earth, she was given the form of a, well, as we say, depicted in a monkey form. Right? When we refer in the Ramayana and stuff and we talk about Vanar, I want you to understand something. We talk about Vanar. Nar meaning man, Va. That which is supernatural, that which is beyond even man itself. And then we say monkey. Not Bandar, Vanar. That's what we see in Ramayana all the time. That which is supernatural. So here, Anjani Devi, standing there doing devotion to Lord Shiva, she's praying to Lord Shiva and saying, Prabhu, Bhagwan, forgive me. I want for you to come in my womb as my child. I want a child just like you. I want a son just like you, O Bhagwan. She's praying to Lord Shiva. As she prays there, that crow flies and that Kir drops and Vayu Devata, the god of the wind, we'll come to that later on, right? Because you'll hear that Vayu Devata is the father of Hanumanji, right? Pavanaput, the son of the wind. You will hear Kesari Nandan, the son of Kesari. You'll hear Shankara Suvan, which literally translates to mean son of Shiva. You'll hear all of these things and you'll wonder why it is like that, right? But we'll come to that when we reach to that part of the Hanuman Chalisa. So coming back to this here now, Vayu Devata, Pavan Devata, he, with the wind, he channels that Kir and it falls into the palms of Anjani Mata and she partakes of it as an offering of prasadam. Then eventually she gives birth to Hanumanji. So Hanumanji is born from the same Kir that Prabhu Shri Ram is born from. And what does that tell to you? I want to take this to the deepest level possible, right? I need lots of time to go through this Hanuman Chalisa because there's so many things contained here. Hanumanji and Prabhu Shri Ram. Prabhu Shri Ram is an avatar of Lord Vishnu. Good? Everybody understands that. I'm sure you would have heard that before. Hanumanji is Ekadas Rudra or the 11th incarnation of Lord Shiva. Vishnu, Shiva, who is Mahesh, and Brahma, they make up the Holy Trinity. Eventually, when they started from the source, before they became the Holy Trinity, they were all one. In the form of Om. Then came into manifestation the Holy Trinity, then all the forms came down. They are one and the same. That is what I'm trying to explain. In Ramayana, in the Sri Ramcharitamanas, as a matter of fact, Tulsidas makes it so beautiful, right? In India, there's something called the Vaishnavas, and then we have the Shaivites, right? We have different sects of Hinduism, right? Different sections, that is, right? Of Hinduism. We have the Vaishnavas, those who worship Lord Vishnu and his incarnations. We have the Shaivites, those who worship Lord Shiva and his incarnations. They would have fought for time immemorial. This one good and that one not good, and we got better and them got better. You don't have to wait to go outside Hinduism, but right here. Right? We got good and that one good. That is ignorance. Tulsidas brought all of them together just by writing this in Ramcharitamanas. Look at this. Still, we have this going on in the world. But nevertheless, he would have, through the grace of Bhagwan, he would have combined all of these individuals together, brought all of us together. We all go together in different places. We sing Ramayana. We don't claim to be a Vaishnava or Shaivite or whatever. There are people who do that, but we don't. Right? Through the grace of Tulsidas, penning that Sri Ramcharitamanas. He made, in that scripture, he wrote and said that Lord Shiva is the Ishtayuta of Prabhu Shri Ram. Prabhu Shri Ram is the Ishtayuta of Lord Shiva. Where's the quarrel now? Where's the fight? Because in the entire Ramayana you hear Lord Shiva, he's chanting whole day, Ram, 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 whole time. He takes form of Hanumanji, he's also chanting Ram, Ram, Ram. Whole time. Prabhu Shri Ram, anytime he does worship, he does puja to Lord Shiva. He did by the ocean, he did Rameshwar puja. You all know of that. When you do yagya and all of that. Worship Lord Shiva. What are they? Same. Stop creating separation and distinction and my God good and this one not good and I like this one. It has semi-God and demigod. You ain't figure yourself out yet, but you want to complain about God and which one good and which one bad. Start figuring this out. When people tell me things like, sometimes I hear people say, well, oh God, somebody posts up something negative about my God. I have to deal with them. Your God need protection? Something wrong with you. My God who protected me need protection? I have to go and fight a battle for him? My God is the supreme Lord of this universe. From him everything manifests. Everything comes into existence. I have to go and fight with somebody that their minds are filled with ignorance. I have to go and clarify the reality of my God. Devotees, you have to be smarter than that. You are fighting which box you on, which incense pack you on, right? Which mat you on, which window you on. God is everything that you can think about, that you can know and that you can understand. He is the floor, He is the sky, He is the earth, He is the roof, He is every single thing that you can think about. How so? He is the energy energy that makes up all of this. If you break down all of this here, right, to the deepest level scientifically, it will take you to a molecular structure. Eventually, it will take you to an atom. From an atom, you break it down further. You get what? Protons, neutrons, and electrons, something like that, right? Yeah? I know too much, right? Good. So, you get that, and there you have a positive charge, a negative charge, and a neutral charge. You break my body down, you break yours down, you break down the wall from a scientific perspective. It takes you to the same level. Because God is everything. He's the energy. That's why we say God is here and everywhere. Because He's everything. You have to start seeing Him as everything. When we do puja, Prithvi Mata, Mother Earth, we rel pray, and then we go outside and we dirty the earth. We dirty the land. That is God as well. So that is being hypocritical, because we are saying one thing and we are doing something else. When we worship the water, Ganga Mata, Varun Deta, well, worship and pray here. What I'm simply trying to say is understand that everything that you're doing here, when we do puja or stuff like that, it's simply to help you understand that God is every single thing that you could possibly think about, good, bad, and indifferent, as a matter of fact. Nothing is made of only a positive charge. It cannot exist. You must have positive and negative, not so? Yes or no? Yes. You must have positive and negative. It is very important. And don't forget neutral. God is everything. In Ramayana, Ishvara Amsa Jiva Avinashi. Lord Shiva says, He says, my devotees, He says, you are part of me. God is the greater entity. We are part of Him, right? We are part of Him. He's not part of us. I even make the mistake and say it sometimes, that's human nature. But the reality is that we are not, He's not part of us. We are part of Him. Right? So He says that in the scripture. Every scripture you can take it at some level, in some place, it will have been told. Prabhu Shri Rama and Hanumanji. Prabhu Shri Rama asked Hanumanji one time, said, Hanuman, what is the difference with you and I? Said, what is the relationship, as a matter of fact? What is the relationship we have? What is this relationship? What do we call this? Hanumanji says, smiling, he says, Prabhu, if you are asking in relation to this body, then I am your devotee. But if you are asking in relation to who I really am, then we are no different. We are one and the same. You go in front of Swami Satya Sai Baba, you ask, Baba, are you God? Yes, I am. But so are you. The difference is I have realized it, but you have not yet realized it. Bhagavan Shri Krishna told that to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita as well also. Arjuna, I am aware of my past, present and future. You do not know what is going to happen even in the next moment. You must become aware of this. That is self-realization, devotees. That is salvation, that is mukti, that is liberation. When you start to understand these things, when you walk the earth, when you live in a different manner. You behave in a different manner. You talk in a different manner. You act in a different manner. When you change what is here in your mind, everything in this world starts to change around you. And you start wondering, what kind of magic is this? So here, Tulsidas invokes, he says, I'm invoking Barnau Raghuvan. He says, I'm invoking that one who comes from the solar dynasty. This could mean both Prabhu Shri Ram and also Hanumanji, because they are one and the same. So basically he's saying that I'm invoking God. That makes life simple, right? I am invoking God, Vimalayasha. Mal means impure, impurities. Vimala means that which is most pure. Alright? So he says, I invoke the presence of that one who's in the purest form, who brings purity to all things. That is the one that I invoke at this point in time.